about Russian President Vladimir Putin. He's been called a lot of things like paranoid, someone who has, and I'm quoting, lost touch with the world and is pathologically afraid for his life. These are the words of a former Russian officer. His name is Gleb Karakulov. He defected last year, so take his assessment with a pinch of salt. But his comments are making waves because this man was no ordinary officer. He was part of Putin's secretive elite personal security service. He was quite high up in the ranks. And he's now Russia's highest-ranking defector ever. This man has gone public. He's making some big claims. He's sharing intimate details of Vladimir Putin's life and disclosing potentially classified information. Listen to this.
Our president is cut off from the world. He lives in an information vacuum. In the last couple of years, he spends most of his time in his residences, which media outlets very eloquently call his bunkers. He is pathologically afraid for his life. He has surrounded himself with an impenetrable barrier of quarantine and a lack of any information from the internet.
These are strong words. He also says Putin has, quote-unquote, shut himself off from the world, and there are all kinds of barriers. He quarantines himself. He's scared of COVID. And before meeting him, you have to be quarantined for at least 2 weeks. Then there is what he calls the information vacuum. Apparently, the Russian president avoids using a cell phone. He doesn't use the internet either. So what's his source of information? His inner circle and state TV news channels. That's all that he depends on, apparently. Also, his paranoia seems to have gotten worse since the war in Ukraine began. Putin now reportedly orders bomb shelters for himself.
In October, when I was in Kazakhstan, in addition to the secured phone that we had already installed in the ambassador's office, we installed another phone in a bomb shelter. To be honest, I don't understand why this was done. It is probably already an instance of some kind of paranoia.
And his so-called paranoia even involves airplanes. And we're not referring to flying anxiety, because how can we forget this? We're talking about safety issues. Vladimir Putin now travels on a special armored train. Recently, visuals of his sprawling ski lodge emerged. It's outside the city of Sochi. It boasts of a pickle pantry, a herbal sauna, and a missile defense system. You heard that right. Putin's luxury complex has its own missile defense system. Now, that's called vacationing in style. So you may agree with Karakulov when he says, and I'm quoting again, Putin's take on reality has become distorted. He's also called the president a war criminal.
I consider this man Putin a war criminal. Although I did not participate specifically in these military activities, I do not consider it possible for me to carry out his criminal orders or even to be in his service. For me, this would be too big of a deal for my conscience. I am not ready for this.
But why is this man speaking now? The defector played a crucial role on Putin's side. He was involved in encrypting the leader's communications. He accompanied him to 180 trips in the past 13 years. 180 trips. Must have been a very close aid. And now he's suddenly speaking the language of the West.
He's clearly committed war crimes.
Holding Russian leaders to account for the atrocities they are committing in Ukraine is our collective priority.
This begs the question, is the former Putin aide now aiding the West? Because his account generally conforms with what the West has been saying. And the picture they've been trying to paint over the years, showing Vladimir Putin as once charismatic, but now growing increasingly isolated and unfit to lead a nation. Every once in a while, the Western press carries headlines and speculative stories on Putin's illness. They talk about body doubles and surgeries and Putin taking a fall. There's a lot of speculation, and a lot of it is agenda-driven. So this account could be an exaggeration, but then again, lies flourish where facts are hard to come by. Vladimir Putin has a carefully crafted image of a strong leader. He's been using the domestic press to his advantage for decades. This interview may or may not dent his image, but the details this man has shared will hurt his security for sure. So far, Russia has not commented on any of these statements.